All right, thanks for joining us. I'm Ernest Lunning with Colorado Politics, here today with Senator Michael Bennet, one of the Democrats running to be Colorado's next governor. He's going to be answering questions prepared by AARP Colorado. We'll be asking the same questions to the other candidates who are running for the chance to take over from term-limited Governor Jared Polis. Senator Bennet, please take a minute to introduce yourself and tell us why you're running.
Thank you, Ernest. It's great to be here with you. I'm Michael Bennet. I'm running for governor of Colorado because we're having a terrible affordability crisis in our state. There is not a family who feels confident that their kids or grandkids are going to be able to live in this state. It's not just because of how expensive housing is, it's because of how expensive housing, healthcare, early childhood education, and other things that families are struggling with. And I think we want families to be able to stay together. There's nothing more heartbreaking than grandparents who are saying we have to move away to another state because we can't afford to live in Colorado, or grandkids whose parents are saying we have to move away from Colorado. We need families to be able to stay here, and that's why I'm running for governor.
Well, thank you. Start out with a question on caregiving. New data shows that there's more than 1 million family caregivers in Colorado. What kind of policies or legislation would you champion to ease caregiver burdens?
Well, for many years as a member of the Senate, for the entire time I've been there, I've been part of the Caregiver Caucus. That's a bipartisan effort to try to make sure, in that case, that caregivers have the opportunity to have tax benefits and other credits that can make it easier for them to be able to stay in the workforce. I think that what we need to do is strive as a society to pay our caregivers a living wage, because this work is very, very hard work. It's very challenging work. The good news is it's not work that can be outsourced to some other country somewhere. And the decent and the right thing to do is for us to come together as a state and figure out how to pay people what they deserve so that they can stay in the caregiver profession and also have the chance to have promotions and be advanced in that profession.
Along those lines, older Coloradans are not immune to the housing affordability crisis. I don't think anyone is in this state. What policy solutions will you seek to help Coloradans age 50 and older find and keep affordable housing?
This is the number one issue in Colorado for everybody. And the median single-family house in our state now costs $650,000. It is insane. And most people can't afford that, obviously. And one of the things we really have to do is build more housing. We've got to build more housing that's cheaper. We have to build more housing that's more dense and built more close to where people work. And seniors have to be able to have options other than the house that they're living in. You know, there are a lot of seniors that I know who raised a family in the house they're in, but would love the chance to be able to downsize into something a little bit smaller. In some ways, they're trapped where they are because our market hasn't been able to open up for more options for either starter homes for kids or for grandkids, and in a way, starter homes for seniors as well. We have to provide both ends of the spectrum in Colorado.
As the number of Coloradans over the age 50 increases, what can be done to help them age in place and remain in their communities?
I think that we have to make sure that we can keep costs as low as possible. That's how people are going to be able to stay, not just in our communities, but in Colorado as a whole. We have to figure out how to drive down the cost of healthcare for seniors. A lot of that comes to the cost of drugs and the co-pays they have to make for drugs that are prescribed for them. We got to make our healthcare system much more transparent so everybody knows what things actually cost, and we give people the opportunity to be able to demand better prices. We've got to get the middlemen in our pharmaceutical industry out of the way so that seniors who've been prescribed medicine from doctors are able to get it at the grocery store, at their pharmacy. And finally, I'd say we have to work to keep energy prices low in Colorado, and they are in danger of rising. I don't want us to be like California in terms of energy prices, because that's going to make it even harder for seniors to live here.
Changing topics a little bit, but what do you see as the biggest public health challenge facing the state, and how will you address it as governor?
I would say our biggest public health challenge is our mental health challenge in Colorado. And that's true for seniors and it's true for everybody else. As you know, Ernest, I used to be the superintendent of schools in Denver. We never had a meeting when I was there about the epidemic that our kids are now facing that they were facing in mental health, because they weren't facing one back then. 10 years later, 15 years later, they are, because of social media and COVID and the economic pressures that you and I are talking about. That's as true for our seniors as well. And we need to make sure that we have much better access to mental health than we do today. If I'm elected governor, I'm going to treat physical health and mental health exactly the same, in the sense that if we are not committed to providing both, then we're not really committed to providing either. And I think that, we can do a better job of making sure that Medicare, for example, covers access to mental health, and that would help our seniors.
From a legislative perspective, and as governor, what can be done to improve our state as a great place for fitness, health, and well-being for Coloradans of all ages?
It's a great question. We need people to be outside. We need people to be able to take care of themselves. I've always believed that our healthcare system should be promoting the kind of exercise that you're talking about, and people should be encouraged in the way we do our Medicare system and our Medicaid system to take care of themselves. I think that's an incredible opportunity for our seniors. I would say also kids need to get outside, and part of my education plan makes very clear that I believe that kids should be outside in the summer, outside during the school year. We should be making sure that we're focused on giving kids the opportunity to be able to get to the mountains, but also participate in team sports if they want to. I believe that every citizen in this state benefits from living in the most beautiful state in the country. But if you don't have the chance to get out there and enjoy it, you haven't really experienced it. And finally, let me say, this is a place where all of us can play a role. I have had many, many community meetings where people are coming and saying, how terrible everything is with Donald Trump, how terrible everything is. And I hear that, and I agree with much of what's said, but I often say, please go find a senior who's at home, and who would be able to want to benefit from taking a walk outside, benefit from somebody coming and reading a book to them. We can't forget that we all have a responsibility to each other. Colorado is a family, and there are a lot of seniors who feel lonely because they're not checked in on enough by the rest of us. I think we can do a much better job than we've done. And that's not a legislation, but it is something we can do as one human to another.
Financial consumer aspects. The state legislature is tackling major consumer safety issues as technology rapidly evolves and changes, such as putting on guardrails when businesses and government use AI to make major decisions. What is your philosophy on balancing consumer rights and technological innovation?
My philosophy is that we have to balance it, which is the verb that you just used, and I think that is the right way of thinking about it. Colorado knows that we can't build a moat around our state against new technology any more than we could against software or against the internet. And there are many benefits to software and the internet, and I hope there will be benefits to AI as well in the delivery just of healthcare and education, just to pick two examples, and it could be a real benefit to our seniors. Mm-hmm. At the same time, we have to make sure that we protect people's civil rights, that we protect people from scams that we're already facing on the internet. And I think we need to make sure we're pushing back on that stuff. But we have to do it in a way that does balance the benefits that are coming. We want Colorado to be a place where AI companies can come and use the engineering talent that we have and help invent what the future is going to look like in a positive way for Colorado and for the nation. And I want to make sure that we don't pass a bunch of legislation that makes that impossible. So just to end the way you started, we need a balance.
Groups like AARP consistently hear from members that rising utility costs pose affordability challenges for Coloradans on a fixed income. Additionally, inadequate heating and cooling can cause significant health risks for older Coloradans. As governor, how would you balance competing interests, from clean energy targets to the proliferation of new data centers and ensure affordable utilities for older Coloradans?
Well, as I said a little bit earlier in this conversation, I'll say it again, affordability is my number one priority, and that's when it comes to housing or healthcare or energy. That is my number one priority. And I recently put out a plan, a new cap and dividend plan for Colorado that would provide an economy-wide, market-based approach to deal with the climate challenges that we have, but at the same time try to keep the cost of energy at a reasonable price. I think that can't just be an afterthought. That has to be the fundamental objective that we're delivering. Donald Trump, with his drill baby drill policy, in the end is not going to deliver affordable energy because he's denying people the benefit of the other parts of our energy sector that Colorado has developed so well, like wind and sun. But we need all those things working together. And as we transition, we can't transition so quickly that we don't have a plausible way of keeping costs low and keeping energy supplied. And I will not be willing to support policies where I'm not assured that those two first things are happening, affordability and the ability of seniors and others to count on the fact that their heating and cooling isn't going to be interrupted by the choices that we make. I think this is a place where Colorado can lead all 50 states, and it's a place where AARP and our seniors can be a very important voice for sensible, common sense policy choices.
Our last question is, Colorado has established a first-of-its-kind prescription drug affordability review board to research and review the cost of prescription medications to consumers and even set upper payment levels on certain medications. Do you support this concept of the PDAB, and how do you plan on further ensuring medication affordability for Coloradans?
I support it, but I think it's just a good start. We need to do a lot more than that. We need to make sure everybody's, the costs of healthcare are transparent, as I said earlier, that everybody understands what things cost. And this is the only country in the world. I can remember meeting two women in Pueblo who were retired. One had worked for the Pueblo chieftain for many, many years. One had, the other had worked, I can't remember what the other one did, but they both worked their entire lives. And now they're in Pueblo, having to spend their retired life just going from pharmacy to pharmacy to pharmacy to try to find the cheapest drug, to go to pharmacy to pharmacy to pharmacy to find the place where the pharmaceutical benefit provider wasn't screwing them over, or go to another place. And no other country in the world do people have to do that. And I'd like Colorado to be a place where we stood up for seniors, we stood up for consumers, we made sure it was as transparent as possible. We continued to build on the work that I've done at the federal level to get rid of, for example, surprise medical bills that have been part of emergency rooms for a long time in America and Colorado that haven't helped, and where we continue to drive down drug prices. This country is the innovator for drugs for the rest of the world. But Donald Trump is right. The rest of the world should not be subsidizing, the United States should not be subsidizing the rest of the world in terms of drug prices. He's not original in the point that he's making about that. But that's a place where I think Democrats and Republicans can agree, and I hope it will be a place where Colorado can be a leader. And seniors, again, AARP and the seniors in Colorado, I think, can be very important voices at the state capitol to demand that we do a better job to make drugs more affordable.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And thank you. Please check out our interviews with the other candidates for governor and candidates running in the 8th Congressional District on coloradopolitics.com and at AARP Colorado. Thanks for watching.